You know what I could really go for right now? Literally anything that comes in a McDonald's carton, wrapper, or bag. Or a McDonald's cup. Yes, any of those items should do it.
We've got your cravings covered. Now stop in for the flaky Filet-O-Fish, the crispy snack wrap, or large fries for just $2.99. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hey, it's Cole Swindell, and when I spend 200 days a year rolling down the highway, the bus can start to feel smaller than a guitar case. Everyone wonders how I stay chill while the hours crawl by. Truth is, one good luck spin on Chumba, and suddenly the trip feels a whole lot shorter. Finding your space, even when there isn't much to spare. Need some chill? Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus TNCs apply. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia High School coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches Podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Vertical Raise. Elevate your program's fundraising this season with Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform for organizations of all sizes, using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with your local fundraising coach, who works with you every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser for your program. To find out more, reach out to Justin Kilpatrick at justink@verticalraise.com. or follow at Vertical Raise, capital G, capital A, on X. Justin Kilpatrick is a territory sales representative. His number is 229-860-0057. Again, you can reach him at justink@verticalraise.com. Justin is good people. I've met him at a golf tournament this summer, and he's done a lot of good work for a lot of programs over the state. Reach out and see what he can do for your program. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, and today I am delighted to be joined by the head coach at Apalachee High School, Coach Mike Hancock. Coach, thanks for being with us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on, Doctor.
Coach, I know we're in the midst of summer. You told me y'all got a nice day up there today in Northeast Georgia, and it's good to get summer going. But start off by just telling everybody, where you grew up and where you played ball and that kind of, just give us your background story.
Yes, sir. I grew up in Athens, Georgia. I went to Athens Christian High School from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. When I got done there, I went to the University of Georgia as a student, majored in health and PE. And once I finished up there, I got my first teaching and coaching job at Loganville High School.
Who was the head coach then?
Back then, I was fortunate. Being from the Athens area, I didn't realize how close Loganville is to Athens, but I got hired by Tommy Stringer, and I don't know if you know Tommy, but I know a lot of people out there did. Coach Stringer was, he's one of the all-time greats, and I was fortunate enough to get my start under Coach Stringer.
Well, that's awesome.
Young buck, yeah.
I just had Brad Smith on the other day, and
I get your story getting chewed out by Coach Stringer when I put Brad in the game, so we'll have to make sure you circle back around to that. He and I laugh about that all the time. I coached Brad from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. We were together.
Well, go ahead and tell it.
This was, I'm trying to remember if this was my first. I kind of climbed the ladder. You know how guys these days, they get hired out of college, they become varsity coaches. But for me, when I started at Loganville, I was the middle school defensive coordinator my first year. But I went to Sunday meetings, and just kind of told Coach Stringer, hey, I'm willing to work doing whatever you needed me to do. Then that next year, he hired me to be the head 9th grade coach, and I did that for 3 or 4 years. And once he felt like I was ready, I got promoted to help with the defensive ends. And that's where, got to know Brad, and obviously Brad's dad, B.J. Smith, was a longtime coach at Loganville. But we were playing Buford. I think Brad was a sophomore. I had Brad, and I had another kid that were sophomore defensive ends that were probably a little bit better in my mind than maybe the older kids. So I put Brad in. He's had a good preseason. He's been working hard. I put Brad in, and he gets, something happens that Coach Stringer didn't like. I don't remember if he got blown off the ball or whatnot. And he comes, Coach Stringer never cussed. He didn't cuss. He didn't, but he was one of those when he talked to you, you respected him and you knew that, okay. And he was, who put Brad Smith in the game? I looked at him. I said, Coach, I did. He says, well, from now on, I'm making all your defensive subs. My response was, yes, sir. So from that point on, Coach Stringer made my defensive subs. And if he needed to put Brad in, Brad got put in, that year on defense, put other those. But yeah, I got my subbing rights revoked because of Brad, but we always laugh about that. But I love Brad to death, like he's one of my own.
And lo and behold, he goes and plays it shorter, and now he's the head coach at Alatoona.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I can still picture him as a sixth grader. I want to say Brad might have been in sixth grade when I first started teaching and coaching, and then obviously coached with BJ all those years and whatnot. But that was one of the things as a young guy. Jeff Seegers, who's now that. Jeff and I grew up together in Athens. And Jeff was the one that let me know that they had a PE job open at Loganville Middle. And I coached baseball with Jeff for a while and helped, kind of, I didn't have a whole lot to do with it just because those guys have had a whole lot of success. But, I was there for the first state runner-up team coaching baseball and then got out of it. But just guys like Jeff, getting to work with him, working with Coach Stringer. Kevin Reach was the offense coordinator who's now the head coach at Monroe. Kevin was a big influence on me. And then a guy that he's passed away now, a guy named Mike Chanko was Tommy's DC. And I learned so much football and how to be a coach and how to be a man and those things from Mike Chanko. And I still things that I go back to today, even when I was a DC and as a head coach, things that I learned from Coach Chanko and Coach Stringer. And then another man that I think a guy named Mike Holdren was another one of those just football guys that I learned a lot from on that staff, but just tons of men that groomed me and helped make me, become a coach, just learning how to be a man. And those guys that were on that first Loganville staff with Coach Stringer for me they've been a big influence on my career. And God bless me and put a young guy that didn't know much and on a staff like that to where I could just learn so much.
I mean, being around Coach Stringer and Coach Seegers, that's two legends right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they are. And Jeff and I, we still, even though, we don't coach together, we still stay in touch. And you know how it is. You work with people so long and we get busy. You don't stay in touch as much, but just being there from the ground up, watching Jeff build that baseball program. And now knowing all the guys that, all those guys, all that baseball staff, they've all been together. Coach Mills, who's the head coach now, when I got out of baseball, Coach Mills took my spot. So that, the core 4 or 5, 6 guys that have always been at Loganville baseball, I think they're all still there.
That's awesome. So how long were you at Loganville?
I was at Loganville for, let me think, when Coach Stringer retired was my last year. So 7 or 8 years. Coach Eric Godfrey got the job and I could have stayed. Eric offered me the chance to stay, but I ended up meeting a girl. She was and Coach Reach actually introduced me to my wife. And she was in college at North Georgia in Dahlonega, and it was find a job closer there or try to commute. So I ended up, Coach Stringer called and found me a job. And I can go through, I'll tell you, I've worked for some big time guys and just great guys over the years, but I ended up getting married and moving away instead of staying at Loganville.
So where'd you go?
All right. Coach Stringer made some calls he knew everybody. He put me in touch with Matt Fligg.
Oh yeah. The Golden Boy. That's my boy right there. Now I love some Matt Fligg.
I can, some of the, Coach Fligg is, that's one thing that I can tell you. One thing about Coach Fligg is that he always talked about loving on kids and treating kids right and treating coaches right. And Yeah, Coach Fligg is I owe a lot to Coach Fligg. He was a big influence. I spent the next 2 years at Chestatee with Coach Fligg.
I texted him today. He played in the GACA golf tournament, the Lee Murray golf tournament this summer. Yep. And I always get to see him there. And I asked him to be on the podcast, and he's going to be. He's fired up about it. But you know how his temper is. And they always laugh about he'll get mad, throw a golf club. And Coach Estes always plays with him. And Chad Estes, I drive up or whatever to get, with the carts, where all the carts are, and he drives by, he goes, Fligg's already throwing a golf club up there on the driving range. And I was like, oh my God, we hadn't even got started yet. And come to find out, it hurt his back. And that's what it was. He wasn't mad about how he was hitting. He was mad because he had hurt his back, and he really wanted to play and play well, and he wasn't able to play much because his back got hurt. But man, I love Coach Fligg. He's always been good to me.
You talk about stories, and this is a good Coach Fligg story. Well, before we forget, this was when we went to Monroe. I don't know if you remember, there was a rapper back in the early 2000s, Mike Jones.
Mm-hmm.
The saying, I think, with Mike Jones is Mike Jones, and everybody would say who.
Yeah.
Well, I was in charge of roll, but Coach Fligg would take roll as when we lined up. So he took roll himself. He took attendance. So the kids talked me into putting Mike Jones on the attendance sheets. So he's going through, he's calling. Coach Fligg knew, he's one of those head coaches that he knew, from the 9th graders to 12th graders, he knew everybody. It wasn't just, and that's one thing I've learned from him is you get to know all the kids. Well, he's going through roll, and he gets to that name. He calls Mike Jones, and all the kids go, who? He calls him again, Mike Jones. Who is Mike Jones? And the kids go, who? So finally, he takes his roll sheet, he slams it down, and you can edit this or whatever. He goes, who the hell is Mike Jones? And all the kids just started dying, and finally they told him who it was, and it was a rapper that
he probably loved it once he figured it out.
He did, and just things like that, just working for Matt. And I tell you what, that I don't know that Coach gets enough credit.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
For building programs. And you look at Matt's track record, wherever he was, he always left it a winner. And
absolutely,
he did. He was a worker. And I remember one year when I was with Matt for all those years, we used to go to Tusculum College for camp, and he and I were. He always drove a Ford Ranger for years. And the guys always warned me about Coach's driving, but I didn't know. So we're riding in the mountain roads. He's in a Ford Ranger with a 5-speed. Got his cell phone in one hand. This was before the hands free. Cell phone in one hand, dip cup in the other. Trying to change gears, stop, circle out. I'm like, whew. I forget who it was. They were like, you survived. I said, yes, God allowed me to get here safely today.
I'm going to call him when we get done. I texted him earlier, and he said he was headed to Marietta to clean his mama's pool out and look after his mama and his sisters. So Coach Fligg, I didn't know you worked for him. So where did you end up after Chestatee?
After Chestatee, I followed him to Monroe.
I interviewed with him at Monroe Area.
Okay, so I worked for the first 2 years at Monroe, and then a buddy of mine was the assistant principal who he ended up being the principal, but a guy named Scott Justice. Scott just retired. He was the assistant superintendent in White County schools, but Scott was the head baseball coach when we started at Chestatee. He called me and said, hey, come work for us at West Hall. So I left Monroe and went to West Hall. Worked for a guy named Mike Newton, Coach Newton. Good guy, good defensive guy. I learned a lot from Mike in my 2 years there. I met a lot of great people working there. And then it just got to, I live in Monroe, and I've lived in Monroe except for the first couple of years of my marriage, but I've been in Monroe, 18 years in this house that we're in, and just driving from Monroe to west to Oakwood just got taxing. It was tough. And I ended up leaving West Hall. A buddy of mine that was on Coach Stringer's staff, a guy named Hank Evans, at the time was the athletic director at Walnut Grove. So I left West Hall to come home to make that commute a little bit better and work at Walnut Grove. So I don't know how many people have, but I make it my claim to fame that I was one of the first few to have ever worked at all 3 high schools in Walton County.
That's pretty awesome. Was Taylor Brooks at Walnut Grove when you were there?
When I was there, Taylor was the head softball coach. And then when Hank retired, I think that's when Taylor became the athletic director.
Yeah, we grew up together. He went to Harlem, but, I mean, we grew up playing against each other. And he's good. Well, I mean, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he is. I think we'll see him. I think he's at Chattahoochee. We're going to open the season with Chattahoochee, so I'm sure I'll get to see him.
I haven't seen him in years, but we went to school, went to college together, and really good guy. That's Andy. I got hired by Harris Rainbow at Walnut Grove, and he hired Andy Scott as the DC. Yeah, Andy Scott's one of my guys.
And I know y'all go way back, because I think that was back when Man of Constant Sorrow. No, I don't know that anybody really knew who you were, but they all, hey, will you post this, or looking for a job? And Andy's like, well, that's one of my buddies. I know exactly who that is.
Yeah. The man of constant sorrow, the man of constant dum-dum is more like, and that hadn't changed.
I would say that you've done a lot for a lot of people. You found help, which, help a lot of people find jobs. Because I know at times when I've looked or times when we've needed somebody, I know I've always reached out to you and helped. So I know that's something for you, I know that probably feels good to have helped a lot of people either, find jobs or get, find a better job or find a good situation. But, from my standpoint, I appreciate all that you've always done for coaches in helping in that area.
Well, somebody helped me, and lots of somebodies have always helped me. So, I just feel like kind of obligated to should help other people. I mean, that's part of what we do. We raise other people's children and try to mold them into young men, and we should help. You should help people if you have an opportunity. It's nice to be nice. It's not hard. No. I'm not a very good person, but I can be nice. I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard to help people. No. And if you got an opportunity to help somebody, you should. You shouldn't go out of your way to screw somebody over. I mean, even if you don't like them. I mean, there's lots of people that don't really care for me. That's okay. There's people I don't care for, but I'm going to help them if I can. I'm not going to, I've had people do me wrong, but I'm still going to help them if I can. I'm not going to go out of my way to, the fact that they don't like me or don't agree with whatever, I'm not going to let that stand in the way of if I have an opportunity to help them. But, I was just raised to be that way. I just, by coaches in the business and by my parents, and, if you can help somebody, help somebody. How were things at Walnut Grove? Seemed like a cool place. It was relatively new when you got there, wasn't it?
It was second year. Harris Rainbow, which, Coach Rainbow had worked for Jeff Herron for those years.
Yeah, he's a heck of a coach. Both of them.
Yeah, Harris was, I've never been around a lot of people that he was the wing T. He knew it inside and out. And he's so smart. He ended up getting out of coaching. After he left, I think he left Walnut Grove and went to Campbell, but I still will text him. We'll stay in touch. But I worked for Harris for a couple of years, and that staff, it was year 2. But Andy Scott was on that staff, which Andy's he's about one of the top people you'll ever, just people.
Mm-hmm.
Just a good guy. Also a dang good, football coach. But, got to work with Andy on that staff and a couple other guys, but Harris was fun to work for. And then when Harris just went to Campbell, they hired a guy. This guy actually played for Coach Stringer. A guy named OJ Soto was the head coach for 2 years. And then I think now OJ's in administration. And then after that, another one of those that, that another one of those big three that I work for is Ben Reeves Sr. I didn't know a lot about Coach Reeves. I'd met him, but just the 5 years that we were together, just the bond that we made, just to become just a friendship and just a brotherhood. And I'm very fortunate to be around and have a good friendship, but also learning how to run a football program from a guy like Ben Reeves. I was very fortunate to work for him. So, I mean, you look at, Tommy Stringer, Matt Fligg, Ben Reeves, all those guys have been successful. And obviously too, I spent 5 years working under Tony Lottie at Apalachee, but just those years, and we can talk about that, obviously that's where I'm at now, but those years working for Ben and seeing how he treats people, I don't know that I've ever met anybody that didn't like Ben Reeves.
Didn't he coach at Social Circle for years?
Ben was the head coach at Social Circle, the head coach at Newton County, head coach at Putnam. Another one of those. If you look at Ben's overall record, it's not a winning record. He won over 100 football games, but he was one of those coaches that would take a job because he knew, like Matt Fligg, he was going to work his tail off to turn it into a playoff program.
Yeah, Matt, Coach Fligg, Coach Reeves, Tony Byram. There's a lot of guys that way better mechanics than the shops that they had to work for.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of coaches like that. David Thrower said that a lot of times, that there's just a heap more, better mechanics than there are shops out there, in the coaching world. And a lot of people don't give people their due credit that, they come in and to a place that, like Coach Dudley said in his podcast the other day, some places are 3-7 places.
Yeah.
Some places are 10-0 places. That's just what they are. And for those types of coaches to go into places like that and turn them around and just get them, to be a playoff team, year in and year out, who cares if they're the 3 or 4 seed? People ain't never sniffed the playoffs, and they can make them. I remember when I was at Aquinas in the mid-'90s, we played Social Circle, and all I remember about Coach Reeves, they always wore khakis and boots. And they were hard-nosed, and they would knock your face off. And that was before we went to Newton, I believe. And they were good. I mean, Dexter Copeland was on that staff, I believe. And I just remember he always wore boots, and their kids were physical.
We do he's organized it. It's been the last 2 years. It's neat to see his tree of coaches. Obviously, you got Ben Jr., who's the head coach at Milton, but just the tree of men that have worked for him. We get together in February and we go to a little cabin in Covington. But like Kevin Reach, Kevin Reach is there. There's guys that are at Thomas County Central that have worked for him. Obviously, the people at Social Circle, Rob comes, but just all the men that have been impacted by Coach Reeves Sr. And it's fun to get together because we all sit around, we tell our stories, but it's just to be there for him just because he's always been there for us.
Right.
And I do. I love that, man. Everything that I try to pattern a lot of things. This is year 29 for me. I just finished up my first year as a head coach. And I go back and I try to look at things, from Coach Stringer to Coach Fligg to Coach Reeves to Coach Lottie, and then even guys that maybe I work for that maybe I didn't see G Hall maybe, but there's still things I can learn from them. But a lot of the things that I try to do is what I learned from Ben. And it's some of the things now that like the contact period and all that stuff. Now there were some things that, we tilted the scale a little bit sometimes with him, but he knew we were going to get everything we could out of those kids and we were going to make them tougher.
So you left there and went to Apalachee.
Yeah, I left there when Coach Reeves retired. I didn't get the job.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary.
another one, Coach, I didn't know Tony at all. Ended up interviewing with him. Another one, just one of those guys that you work for. You've been in this business. You become family with people that you work for. And I'm fortunate enough to not only, work with Tony, but also develop, a brotherhood, a good friendship with, when my dad did pass away, a couple of weeks ago, it was, Tony and several of the guys that were on staff with us at Apalachee. Those guys came to the funeral home, to see me and wish. And that's, I remember talking to Tony that night, when he came to the funeral home, is, that's what we're there for. That's what coaching is for. That's what the brotherhood is for, is to be there when you're going through tough times. And I know Tony's, dealing with the health issues that he went through a couple of years, and good to see him, doing as well as he is now. But, we're there for each other. And that's one thing, if Chris, these young coaches need to understand is coaches are going to go through hard times. They're going to go through health issues. They're going to go through tough seasons. But the one thing I can tell these young guys is you need to be there for each other. You need to be there for the head coach. You need to be there for the assistant coach. You need to be there for your players. You got to pull together and you got to be there for each other. And, I haven't worked with Andy Scott. We haven't worked together in 15 years, but if Andy called and needed me, and the same thing, if I called, we're going to be there for each other. And that's just to me what coaching is.
This is about you, but I'm going to share this story because it's the same thing. And I agree 1,000%. Stacy Bell, who's about to retire from being the headmaster at Tift area now, but he retired from public schools. He was my mentor.
Yes, sir.
When I started at Worth County, I will cut everybody's head off outside of my wife, my parents, and my child for him. My first son was born without kidneys, and he only lived a day, and we didn't know until he was born. Stacy Bell got in his car in Sylvester, Georgia, and drove to Temple, Georgia. When he got out of the car, he grabbed me. He looked at me and said, "I just had to put eyes on you."
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. And then he stayed there for about an hour and he left. Because that's what we're about.
You're right.
And some of these younger guys, I don't think we want to cave each other's skull in on Friday nights. But like you said, if you call me and you need me to be there, I'll be there. And that's what the brotherhood's about.
Yeah.
What it's supposed to be about. I'm not going to undercut you. I'm not going to sell you out. I'm not going to take your players. I'm not going to do all that other stuff. I'm not going to, make you look like a dum-dum to make me look better. That's just not what it's supposed to be about.
I think that gets lost a lot. And I think, too, it's just we're together all the time. That's what I try to tell our guys. And I'm like you, which is weird. Now I'm the oldest guy on staff. But I don't look at myself. This is year 29 for me, which I look in the mirror and I'm gray and fat. But I do. I understand that. But I try to tell our guys that we need to always be there for each other. And there's guys that you work with that you do build obviously closer relationships with, and those guys that like we just talked about is, I can pick up the phone, I can text them, and I can say, "Hey, man, I'm struggling. Can we just talk for a minute?" And that's one thing. Andy Scott's one of those guys that I can talk to. And Coach Fligg, I don't know if you know anything. Coach Fligg is the master of the 9,000 word text.
Yes, I got one today.
He wants to make sure he's checking on you.
Yes.
He wants to make sure that you're doing okay. And same thing, Coach Reeves for years carried a flip phone, but we'll call, check in every now and then just to check on each other. But that's what we do. And that's the only way I've known, working with somebody like Tommy Stringer and being around him and the friendship that I have with Kevin Reach and those guys like that I learned from, and just knowing that, hey, people matter. And that's where God blessed me, is he put me with the right people at a very young age. And I learned that, like you talked about, when you're young, and I hope that I do that I can be, like, we were able to hire a kid that played for us He played at Walnut Grove, just finished up playing at Brevard. He started with us this year. He's going to be teaching with us. But I hope that those kids like that we can say, okay, y'all take the torch. Y'all go make this a great profession.
Right, because they've got to do it because we're on the way out.
Yes. I've got a 10-year-old, so I don't know. I would love to say that I could retire in 2, but I doubt it. I mean, I'm gonna work till whenever, and but I got a 10-year-old daughter. I got a 16-year-old son, a 13-year-old son, and a 10-year-old daughter. And I'll probably have. My wife tells me I'm gonna have to keep working until she at least goes to college. So I got another 10 years in me at least.
But you know what I mean. We're as somebody said the other day, we got a lot more sand in the bottom of the hourglass than we do the top.
Yeah, I tell my wife all the time. Said, "Yeah, I'm retired. I already got my next job." So what? So I'm just going to work for one of these sporting goods companies that would come in, and I'll just travel and sell sporting goods. She said, "I will see you even less then." I said, "Yeah, that's the plan."
Sounds like my parents. My dad retired from a paper mill. Now he works as a valet parking guy that asks you if you want to ride in a golf cart at the hospital. I'm like, "Daddy." And he goes, "Well, your mama don't want me around the house. I had to get out and go do something."
Well, that's like I think coaches are. That that when coaches retire, and that's one thing I've learned, and seeing guys that are obviously that mentored me, they've retired, but they're doing something else because we're wired from coaching and you're wired knowing that, okay, I've got to work and work and work. And it's hard for, I think, coaches to relax.
Well, that's what you talked about Coach Fligg driving in the mountains, 5-speed with his hands full. I mean, I just could visualize it because he's wide open all the time. I mean, that's probably why he's in such good shape to be an older guy, I mean, because he has no stop.
No.
I mean, he still works out. He was talking about going to, not yoga, but like he goes to flexibility training and this training. And I lifted the other day and I'm looking at him going, "You're making me tired just listening to you."
Well, that's the other thing too, is so these guys understand you talk about, Coach Stringer, Coach Fligg, Coach Reeves, is all those guys, they knew how to take care of their bodies too.
Right.
And, Coach Reeves was, he would lift with our classes, and he just always continued to take care of himself. And that's one thing is some of these, and I got to do a better job of taking care of myself, but being around those guys that are just nonstop workers, they take care of themselves too. And they got to take care of themselves, but they also knew how to have fun. And that's one thing that I've learned. And we go on these staff retreats, and that's what I told our guys. We've set ours up, but it's mainly just to sit around and have fun.
Well, let's talk about after year one of being a head coach. I ask everybody the same thing, and everybody kind of has the same answers, like drinking out of a fire hose.
When you go 0-10 your first year as a head coach, you learn a lot. But the one thing that I can say is I don't know how it is for some people, but we go to Bethlehem Church in Bethlehem. There's the pastor, Jason Britt. And it seemed like all throughout the season, every message was directed for me and the things that we're going through. Yes, it's frustrating, but God has a season for everybody. And my season as a first-year head coach was struggle. But I learned through that is, okay, my faith is strong. I'm not giving up. I continue to pour in to love on the kids. And I'm grateful, for the opportunity, to have another opportunity to lead the Apalachee football program. We've got our athletic director, Ralph Neely's very supportive. Our principal, Jessica Rayberg, she loves football. So I'm very fortunate to have them to support me. But just learning a lot about myself spiritually, where I was at, learning through the struggle. I learned a lot, just dove into a lot of Job and struggles instead of questioning, okay, God, why are we doing this? It was more, okay, God, what are you trying to teach me? What can I learn from this? And by any means, Chris, am I the perfect Christian? I'm not saying that. But what it did cause me to do is dive more into my Bible and say, okay, let's figure out what can I learn from this season of life. And it was. And then obviously when the season ended, off season, our kids are working, we're doing a great job. And just, yeah, I do know this, and my wife had to learn this part from being a first-year head coach, is my phone, whether it's an email, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text, my phone lit up a lot more than it did when I was in that other chair.
Yeah, Nick Davis pointed out during his podcast that y'all could go home, get in your truck, go to sleep, but when you're in the big chair, you're never off.
No. And that's one thing that being under Coach Lottie is Tony always talked about that he always laughed. Hey, y'all can have my chair. Anybody, can sit in this chair, but you also got to take the phone home, and you got to take these phone calls at night. And it's right. And what I try to do is, even with my wife and kids, is you do got to put the phone down sometimes. And that's one thing I've learned in talking to other coaches is you got to put the phone down, and you got to spend time with your wife. You got to spend time with your kids, and it can't just be. And I've learned too that it's a struggle, because I want to check that email, or I want to check that text, but when I get that eye roll, put your phone down from my wife, then I know, okay, I'm gonna leave the phone away for a little bit. That text, that email can be answered in another couple of hours.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's like today, we were off on Mondays, and we go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So today, me and Grayson, we went and got our hair did, and then we got home. We went and hit some golf balls. We played a little bit, and I just followed the rule my wife had years ago, when we got married 23, 24 years ago. And she said, look, I get this coaching gig. I know how it works. I know where you're going to be, when you're going to be. I know how busy you're going to be. But this is all I ask you. When you got free time, you spend it with me. And then when Grayson came along, you spend it with us. And that's worked for us. When I have free time, we spend it with them. And, that's just, and we ain't got much of it. But
No.
But when we do have some, she's like, I don't want to deal with you. Oh, I'm going to do this, that. No, you spend your time with us. So
and that's what you got to learn how to balance. And
right.
I'm still, and I'm learning. That's what I tell people all the time. I've been coaching football, 28, 30 years, even going back to my college days when I helped with rec football. So I've been coaching almost 30 years, but I've only been a head coach for one. So I'm still learning.
Oh yeah.
And but I also know that I've been around a lot of really good head coaches. And so, things that I can bounce off them, and I can learn and do things. So, and that's one thing, hopefully these young guys need to understand, but you need to make time for your family.
Well, something you pointed out, or that with your background and who you work for, is a lot in common with Coach Ed Dudley. Y'all work for great people as assistants, and then you step into your first head coaching job. No matter how good the people were that you work for and how well prepared you are, you still ain't ready.
No.
You still have stuff come up, and you're like, all right, where is the book? Like Coach Dudley said, you can buy all the Chris Parker books you want. And I love Chris, but he's right. I mean, they are helpful, and they are a good guideline, but some things ain't in them books.
You're right, because the one thing, and I'm trying to remember from who told me this, but obviously when you become a head coach, it's, especially now in the state of Georgia, it's almost like you become a CEO. And I honestly don't know. There's times, last year I felt like I'm doing this and this and this, and it wasn't on the field related. It's just learning those things. And that's one thing is that I've made a point of this year's, okay, let's handle this now. So when this happens, I don't have to worry about it. But it's almost, it's like you're a CEO of, because you got this, and I'm fortunate enough. I go to our Rotary Club meetings in Barrow County, and I do other things in the community. But I'm fortunate enough to be able to do those. But those are things that need to be done. But those are things that once football practice starts, okay, football practice needs to be the focus.
Yeah, I've told people when they've asked me in the past about head coaching opportunities, I'm like, well, if you want a CEO head coach, I can probably do that. but you're going to have to allow me to hire really, really good coordinators because, you know, that's what it's going to take. Because I don't think I'm not good enough to do all of that. I'm just not.
Yep, you're right. And that for me, I think the hardest part for me is because I've always been a defensive coordinator, and I wanted to make sure I got that right. And I was able to hire a guy named Ricky Aspinwall. Ricky was at Mountain View for a long time, but Ricky is a good young defensive coordinator and he does a great job with our kids. And, you know, on top of that, you know, he does a great job in our classroom. And then my offense coordinator is a guy we've been friends for a long time, but we've also coached together for a long time. His name is Jordan Rushing. And having Ricky and Jordan as my two coordinators as a first year head football coach and going into my second year, I'm very fortunate to have guys like that are running our offense and defense. And they're, you know, on top of, they're both great teachers. Coach Rushing's our math department head. And then Coach A is, you know, he teaches, you know, high level math. So I've got, you know, they're smarter than me. I know that.
Well, I know one of my homeroom teacher in high school coached at Apalachee for a while, and I'm pretty sure he's retired now. I don't know if you were there when he was there. Randy Hill.
Randy is still coaching wrestling.
Really?
He's still the head wrestling coach. When Tony got the job, Randy was still coaching football. Randy stayed coaching football for us a little bit. And then he's actually still the head wrestling coach at Apalachee. Now that you want some stories, I don't know that we could probably talk about real stories in the podcast.
Good Lord.
That is, I love Randy to death. He is a lifer.
He was my homeroom teacher in high school at Lakeside Evans all 4 years. And he coached my little brother who played football. And Coach Hill was our soccer coach. And I think he coached like linebackers. He was wide open. I mean, he was just, and he was fun. I mean, he was funny. I mean, we all loved him. And I mean, he messed with us all the time. But I mean, he was just wide open. I mean, I remember when all of his kids were born, you know, because we were in school and now they're all grown. Yeah. And he's a granddaddy. And, you know, I just thought for sure he was retired by now because he's way over 30 years.
Well, he's not teaching. And he keeps the grandkids, I think, sometimes during the week, but during wrestling season, even right now, he called me the other day. He's taking some, you know, he's going to camps, and Randy's another one that I've learned a lot from, and I'm fortunate enough to have been around him. But you know, Coach Hill, yeah, he's a good one. He's and a lot of people got a lot of respect for Randy and the jobs that he does and the programs that he's led. So yeah, he's a.
Miss Coach Hill was a good coach too. Martha was good. She got after it too. And she'd snatch you up in a heartbeat too. She didn't play the radio. We couldn't figure out how, I guess I guess that's why he cut up with us so much, because she'd try to make him behave, because that was a tall task within itself. But, you know, looking back now as an adult, he was a lot of fun. I mean, he's probably one of the ones that influenced me into wanting to, you know, be a coach and everything, and the relationship aspect of it with your players and your kids, that you could have fun but still hammer them and get stuff out of them. Man, that's awesome. I didn't realize he was still in it.
Yeah, I'll have to tell him. I'll let him know once we get done that you and I went on your podcast. He probably has no idea what a podcast is, though. So.
No, probably not. But he's one of my favorite people ever. And he loved my little brother. My little brother wrestled for him and played football. My little brother, Brad, because my little brothers were twins. And my little brother was an undersized offensive linebacker guy. But he was just mean. And I didn't play football. I was a baseball guy. So that's just, I was like one of the first people to specialize. And I shouldn't have. I mean, I was too much of a wuss to play. And I mean, that's just facts. But my little brother, he loved him, and he played, and he wasn't bad. But man, I love Coach Hill. Loved him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's a good, you know, just a good man. He's one of those too that, you know, he can teach a lot of young people a lot about, you know, this coaching profession, and you know, he's one of those.
So how are things? How did y'all do spring this year? We
did spring. We scrimmaged with West Hall. We we had a quarterback that started for us for 3 years. So we're having a good little quarterback battle this spring. And this summer. So we had a good spring, went over to West Hall, had a good scrimmage with Coach Montgomery and his staff. And, now we're getting ready. We're going to actually, we're going to host a padded camp here at the end of June. And then we'll go to a Decula padded camp in July. So we've got a busy summer. And we're going to UGA next week, which is, our kids enjoy it because they don't get to Athens much, even though we're 30 minutes from Athens, but our kids don't get to Athens much. So we like to expose them to a little bit, but we'll get out and we'll get busy and we'll go to work.
Did reclassification do anything to you guys, or did you stay about where you were?
We stayed about where we were. We went down to 5A. It's basically the same where we used to be. When we were in 6, we stayed with Habersham. We stayed with Jackson. And then when we dropped back down, Jackson dropped down back into that old region that we used to be, Winder. Who all's in that? I'm drawing a blank with Winder, Clark Central. It's just that old 8-4A, 8-5A, 8-6A, all those.
The Athens
teams.
area region. Yeah.
So it's all that same. And that's one thing too, is
Cedar Shoals.
Cedar, I think Cedar's numbers, so they're under us.
Oh, they're below. Okay.
Farthest one, but guys like Benji and Corey, Benji at Hab and Corey at Jackson County, those are guys too that I've known them a long time, and guys that I respect that I can reach out to those guys and they help me out too. So even though like you said we want to beat each other on a Friday night, but those are guys that just good guys in this coaching profession that are in it and they want to see you succeed. So, those two guys, I rely on them for things too.
Well, that's awesome, Coach. I've enjoyed talking with you and appreciate you coming on. And I know the first year, record wise, wasn't it what you wanted at all, but you've been around great programs and you've had success as an assistant, and it's just a matter of time before you get it right how you want it. Got a lot of work to do in the summer, plenty of time to do it. Weather stays like it's supposed to. I know you guys are going to get it done.
Well, I appreciate that, Chris. Yeah, we've got a good, but we got good kids, and that's what makes a lot of people talk about is that day job. And my day job is I don't go to work. I don't. I go and do what I love to do and be around some great kids every day and some great coaches. So I enjoy what I do every day.
Well, Coach, I sure do appreciate you. If there's ever anything in the world I can do for you, let me know.
Yes, sir. And thank you for all you do, Chris. And I appreciate you having me on. But like we talked about all the things that you do for the coaching profession, not just me, but a lot of us appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's Cole Swindell, and when I spend 200 days a year rolling down the highway, the bus can start to feel smaller than a guitar case. Everyone wonders how I stay chill while the hours crawl by. Truth is, one good luck spin on Chumba, and suddenly the trip feels a whole lot shorter. Finding your space, even when there isn't much to spare. Need some chill? Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus TNCs apply. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.